The biggest name player has officially been taken off the trade market. Jake Guentzel is a Carolina Hurricane. Similar to the Noah Hanifin trade last night, we knew Jake Guentzel was going to the Hurricanes for hours now, but because of the fact that both the Penguins and the Hurricanes played tonight, it took a long time for this one to materialize and for the full details to come out, but it appears as though we finally have them. The trade call has officially went through. Jake Guentzel is a Hurricane, and again, similar to last night with the Noah Hanifin trade, I am very surprised by the low cost that Carolina had to pay to land Jake Guentzel here. So the full details of the trade: Jake Guentzel 25% retained, and Ty Smith have been traded to the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for Michael Bunting, Ville Koivunen, Vasily Ponomarev, Cruz Lucius, not to be confused with Chaz Lucius, a conditional second-round draft pick in 2024, and a conditional fifth-round draft pick in 2024. And in my opinion, what makes this such a weak return for the Pittsburgh Penguins is the conditions on those draft picks. First, the condition on the second-round draft pick is it will only become a first-rounder if Carolina wins 3 rounds in the 2024 playoffs, so they have to make the Stanley Cup final in order for that second to turn into a first. If the Hurricanes don't make the Stanley Cup finals, then Pittsburgh will receive Philadelphia's second-rounder in 2024, which was previously acquired by Carolina. And the condition on the 2024 fifth-round draft pick is if Carolina does not win the Stanley Cup in 2024, the Penguins won't receive the pick, so they have to win the Stanley Cup for them to get that fifth. Kyle Dubas is absolutely going to be rooting for the Carolina Hurricanes to go all the way, at least make the Stanley Cup final so he can get that first rounder, but making the Stanley Cup final is something that the Carolina Hurricanes have not been able to do with this current core. Now, the Penguins are getting some decent prospects here. Cruz Lucius is 19 years old. He was a fourth rounder by the Canes in 2022, and he's scoring at around a half point per game pace this season for Wisconsin in the NCAA. Ville Koivunen, intriguing prospect as well. He was a second rounder from 2021, and he's having a monster year in the Liga with 55 points in 57 games. It definitely seems like the Penguins preferred quantity over quality when it comes to this trade. They're definitely banking on at least one of Lucius, Koivunen, or Ponomarev hitting and becoming a solid NHLer for them. Speaking of solid NHLers, the Penguins do get one in this return in Michael Bunting, who has a cap of $4.5 million and has 2 more years left on that deal following this season. Obviously, Bunting is a player that Kyle Dubas, GM of the Penguins, is very familiar with. He had him in Toronto, and Bunting's a guy that's capable of playing top 6 minutes. He can get you 20 goals in a season. He's a tenacious forechecker, and in Toronto, Bunting proved that he can be a solid complementary player playing on a line with superstars. He played a lot with Matthews and Marner. You have to imagine Kyle Dubas is going to give him a look next to Crosby in Pittsburgh. Really curious to hear how Pittsburgh Penguins fans feel about this return, so any Penguins fans watching this, sound off down below in the comments. Let me know how you're feeling. Like I mentioned, in my opinion, initial impressions are that the return is kind of light for somebody like Jake Guentzel. Carolina was able to land the best player available on the trade market, even if it is just a rental, without having to give up a guaranteed first-round draft pick or any of their top 2 prospects in Alexander Nikishin and Scott Morrow. So those are my thoughts on the return for the Pittsburgh Penguins. I don't think it's awful by any means. I'm not going to come on here and say that Kyle Dubas got fleeced, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit surprised that Dubas wasn't able to land, at the very least, a guaranteed first-round draft pick or one of Carolina's absolute best prospects, as opposed to a handful of good ones. Let's now shift focus, though, and talk a little bit about this deal from the point of view of the Carolina Hurricanes. I think they did really well here. I think Jake Guentzel is a massive add for this team. I've said in the past that I think Carolina needed to go big game hunting and acquire a top line forward, whether it was Buchnevich, whether it was Jake Guentzel, because this is a team that hasn't been able to get over the hump in the playoffs in terms of making it out of the Eastern Conference, and I think a big reason for that is oftentimes offense has dried up for the Carolina Hurricanes in the postseason. You now add a guy who is an all-offense, legit top-line forward who can score 40 goals in a season, be around a point-per-game player, and most importantly, Jake Guentzel is a proven playoff performer. He has 34 goals and 58 points in 58 career playoff games. Now, does Jake Guentzel have his defensive issues? 1000%, but he's going to a team in Carolina that notoriously has a fantastic defensive system, and the Carolina Hurricanes aren't trading for Jake Guentzel to ask him to go out there and be a Selke Trophy level forward. They're trading for him to create offense, to score goals, to help them offensively in the postseason, and to take this Carolina Hurricanes team to another level offensively, which is exactly what I think Jake Guentzel is going to do. I use the term a lot, move the needle when it comes to breaking down trades. For an example, I'll say I don't think this trade moves the needle much one way or the other and things like that. But when it comes to this trade, this, in my opinion, is the definition of a needle mover. I think it's going to be fascinating to see how a team like the New York Rangers respond to Carolina making this move. I think they're going to be very active tomorrow. Maybe go after a guy like Tyler Toffoli or a Pavel Buchnevich to kind of counter this Jake Guentzel move. Final thoughts though, big time addition. I think Jake Guentzel is an amazing fit on Carolina. He's exactly the kind of player that I think this team is needed, and they got him at, in my opinion, a very fair price, even if he is just a rental. If he ends up extending in Carolina, then this trade is going to look even better. Before I get out of here, I do want to quickly touch on another trade that happened prior to the full details of the Guentzel trade coming out, and that is the Tampa Bay Lightning acquiring forward Anthony Duclair along with a 7th round draft pick in 2025 from the San Jose Sharks in exchange for prospect Jack Thompson and a 2024 3rd round draft pick. Anthony Duclair carries a cap hit of $3 million and will be a UFA at the end of the season. For the San Jose Sharks, I'm actually a pretty big fan of this return. Aside from the 3rd round draft pick, I think the more intriguing asset is Jack Thompson. He was a 3rd round draft pick by Tampa in 2022, and this is a guy who's putting up real solid numbers in the AHL as a 21-year-old defenseman this season, 32 points in 46 games. So there definitely could be something there with Jack Thompson. He has some upside for sure. Looking at this deal from the point of view of the Tampa Bay Lightning, I actually like the trade from their side of things as well. Anthony Duclair has really bounced back this season after his finishing fell off of a cliff last year. Duclair has 16 goals this season in 56 games on a very bad San Jose Sharks team, and this is a player who's not all that far removed from a 30-goal season with the Florida Panthers. I think Duclair is going to provide Tampa Bay with some much needed depth scoring. The bottom six really hasn't done much damage offensively. You know, Kucherov and Point and those guys have been doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Kucherov especially, of course. So I think Duclair was a really good budget option for Tampa Bay to kind of bolster the scoring in the middle six. He's a very fast winger who's good at creating chances off the rush. In my opinion, this is a very solid trade for both sides. So those are my thoughts on the Jake Guentzel and Anthony Duclair trades that took place tonight. As always, I want to know what you guys are thinking, especially if you're a fan of any of the teams involved in the 2 trades we covered in this video. Let me know your thoughts down below. How are you feeling about these moves? If you guys enjoyed the video and you're excited for tomorrow's trade deadline, please be sure, or I guess I should say today's trade deadline, because it's 1 o'clock in the morning here in Nova Scotia as of the time I'm recording this. But anyways, leave a like on this video. It's the best way to let me know that you enjoyed, and it does help out the videos a ton. And lastly, and most importantly, if this was your first time coming across the channel and you want NHL content just like this all year round, trade breakdowns like this for every single trade, then be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 100,000. Thank you guys so much for all the support on the channel so far this month. It's been a fantastic start to March. I really do appreciate all of you guys, and I'll talk to you all again soon.